Welcome back to Music Videos on the Radio. My name is Al Guy. I'm joined by Giovanni. And I want to start this podcast off with a minor apology here. You see, much like how Christian embodies the base sides of human nature and puts them on display without filter, when I'm really tired, I come to embody the condescension and sarcasm of the human condition. So, with that being said, I'll just be the Morrissey of the podcasting scene, or maybe the John Lennon of the podcasting scene, as we'll discuss today.
Yeah,
Giovanni, how are you
hopefully
doing?
I'm doing well. Hopefully you'll be a less racist than Morrissey.
Okay, well, we haven't gotten to actually we've dabbled in a little hip hop. I didn't say something. I didn't say anything controversial about that. So maybe just the John Lennon. For reasons we will discuss today.
Yeah. So
So
today we've got three songs that we're going to talk about
yes,
uh because we're into the 70s now.
yes,
Bye
all
bye
new.
60s.
Yes.
LSD no more.
No. Now it's all new ways to uh, film music videos in a white backdrop.
Yeah. And so our three songs are Paranoid by Black Sabbath, Life on Mars by David Bowie, and Imagine by John Lennon. Uh we are starting with Paranoid. I
Yeah,
think appropriately because, new decade, new genre of music being invented.
true.
So what do you have to say about Paranoid and the video
I
surrounding it?
I have to say, well, it might be the most low effort of the videos that we're gonna cover today. Um, and honestly, here's what I think the video looks like. The first metal band wants to have a spooky video about being crazy, but they run into two issues. First, they refuse to wear anything but t-shirts and jeans, and maybe like a leather jacket. And second, all they have to film on is an empty white studio, like the ones that the Beatles were using for Help and uh, um, Ticket to Ride. So the most they can do is set up like a zany backdrop that end up probably being a lot smaller than they thought, and then get someone to flicker the lights in the background. That's sort of the impression I got. What about you?
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean they look like they're having a good time, but in regards to the backdrop, it does look like they took a or they asked someone to construct a very cheap looking version of a set from a Fellini film and and just put that behind them and sort of
Okay.
and they didn't even frame it so that it takes up the entire background all the
No,
time.
no, no,
So you can
no.
see
I,
the
I
edges
don't think
of
I
it.
don't think they had such lofty goals, I'll be honest. I think they just wanted something spinning because they're crazy. Uh, I couldn't even find like any relevance to what they were like what they had back there. It was just a lot of like squiggly lines, like I don't know, like some like mystery kind of motifs. There was, I'm not sure if you caught, like some weird inversions of the American flag,
Yeah,
and
saw those.
as we discussed, the original uh album title was War Pigs, right?
Yes.
And
Oh, I guess we
the
should give that story now because we discussed that
oh
in
yeah,
private,
yeah,
not on the
that's true.
podcast.
Yes.
So the album Paranoid was originally supposed to be called War Pigs, which is the another big song on the album, and that's why on the front the guy is dressed up as a pig doing war. And they
Yes.
changed the title of the album, but not the album cover.
It's
So
it's he's not just doing war. He's like he's got his like saber out and he's in the forest. So it does look like he is insane. And then
yeah,
they've like copied and like overlaid the image a few times so that it looks like he's got an army, a small army of pigs that are walking in perfect unison.
yeah.
Um, but
I mean,
with that in mind, I was thinking, hey, what's the war to protest during the 70s? Like this is the beginning of the 70s, right?
yeah. So it was the
Nam,
Vietnam War.
exactly.
Yeah,
So they gotta roast the paranoid Americans who are engaging in war around the world, and that's maybe why they have like that those kind of star and stripe inversions circling around in the background. but
You think
that's
there's
not
that
the.
much thought put into it?
Uh, maybe I don't know. It is like if you look, you can see that it does have stars adjacent to stripes. So
Yeah.
I it would be a coincidence, but that really doesn't speak to
Well,
the quality of the video. That's just a kind of factoid.
yeah. Well, fun fact,
Mm,
factoid
mhm.
means untrue fact that is repeated a lot as though it is true.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. True. We were just having so much trivia today.
Yeah, the trivia episode.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I
but getting
think
on to matters that are perhaps trivial in other ways,
yes.
um, back to the video, because I'm not convinced that it's really adding much to the song, because I like the song a lot. I like the album a lot.
Yes.
Um, but the backdrop, it just kind of ends, as I said. It doesn't take up the whole frame ever, and so that looks
Yes.
silly. Uh,
What about, well, if you're just talking about things that look silly, what about the people standing in the background? Like standing off to the sides, you can
yeah,
see them.
yeah,
Like,
that looks pretty silly.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
if you want to talk about things that like them looking silly, what about them just being like the incarnation of the Muppets band? Like they all have everyone except for Ozzy is like the shaggiest hair. The drummer is actually in like hunchback position constantly.
yeah, yeah.
The,
Ozzy smiles a bunch, so that's pretty
yeah,
nice.
well,
He's really into it.
it's not. There's some lack of synergy with the song there because apparently he's frowning all the time
Yeah,
and yet he's smiling in this. See, that's another
yeah.
oversight on their part. Uh,
I'm gonna mention a good thing about this video though,
mhm,
so it's not purely laughing at it.
yeah,
Um, at about at 1 minute and 50 seconds, 50,
mhm.
um, they they're playing their guitar. He's chugging along, and then when he cuts to like
He's
the
really
sudden
chugging.
stroke, the video actually cuts to the drummer smacking the drums.
Yes.
And so there's some nice rhythmic editing because they do that every time they go to the dun dun dun.
Oh, true, true. Yeah, they do. I mean, they really like they really like keeping the camera off of Ozzy. Honestly, like the cameraman is standing behind him practically for most of the video, just shooting the band instead. And I think that's sort of what holds the video back. Here's my thought for that. There's, I think, an alternative way of interpreting this video that might make it seem better executed. Here's how you could make it seem this way. So, Black Sabbath, a forward-thinking band, recognizes that the cliche of playing in a white room that is empty except for a thrown together backdrop is going to go out of style, right? They saw Ticket to Ride, empty room, just kind of thrown together signage behind them, really boring. They're like, this is going to go out of style. They want to shoot a video about the cracks of that cliche shining through. Uh, they want to shoot something that is almost like a normal Beatles-esque video, white room video, but slightly breaking at the seams. So they get this kind of like half-hearted backdrop, and that's like clearly bad. But then they have someone flickering lights in the background,
Yeah,
and
it
then
kind of
to
becomes a
rep
black room sometimes.
yeah, exactly. And then to represent the paranoia, they have people standing off to the side of the set, which is something, talking about the sort of self-awareness of the music video cliche at this point. That's usually a no-no, obviously, right? But now they're breaking that fourth wall a little bit because they're paranoid.
That's your reading?
That's that's
I
that's
guess
how
that
I
would
think
be
you could say that this is a good video.
yeah. Yeah, I suppose that would be the only argument you could make really in favor of it.
Yeah. And honestly, I think like this is maybe a larger question about when a work is released and when that's important and how that contributes to the meaning of a piece of art. But
Yeah.
if this was released now,
Oh,
people
it
I
would be
think
death.
would. Sorry.
Yeah, they would people would definitely say, "Oh yeah, they're doing a throwback," and kind of
Y-
make
y-
this out of those old videos.
yeah, it's about 70s US paranoia or whatever, and that's really creative, like toying with old music video cliche. 5 out of 5, easy, right?
Yeah, so then okay, so then I guess the question is bringing up your favorite writer of all time, Jorge
Yes.
Luis Borges.
Okay, I that's where I thought that was going. This is like the
Yeah,
inversion of Borges though, because this isn't someone who did it. Yes, well, you can explain.
well, yeah, so one of his famous stories, it's I think it's called Pierre Menard, author of The Quixote.
Mhm.
It's some French name, author of The Quixote for sure. And it's about a guy who decides to rewrite Don Quixote word for word, but he's a Frenchman doing it in the 20th century. And it's just like a long running joke that he's like, oh, when this is said by a 17th century Spaniard, it means this banal thing. But when it's said by a 20th century Frenchman in this new context, it means this ingenious thing.
Mhm.
Um, and so it prompts the question of does it matter when it was released to have a certain meaning?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this one would kind of suggest that it does. Not to hate on Spaniards or British 70s metal bands, but I think people would really be impressed by the recreation. But to an extent, I think that comes down to just like people being impressed by the technical ability to recreate certain cliches. Like, oh, this artist was really paying attention to the way music videos were back then, right?
Yeah,
Which is maybe not something that we want to like celebrate as like, oh yeah, that's good art. The artist was really paying attention and really accurately recreated something.
well, I let me introduce this, I suppose, this wart into your seemingly clear cut
Oh yeah,
idea, which is
my
um,
seemingly lucid
generally
idea.
generally when people like parody the old things, they exaggerate them in some way. So
Mm,
it's like it's like the old thing, but the element that makes it slightly ridiculous in the original, they really emphasize that. Um,
yeah.
like I think like one of the best examples of literary parody. Now this is going way back. Is to look at old Latin
Homer.
poetry. No,
Okay,
not
there
that
you
old, but close. Because Virgil has a lot of very serious descriptions of battles in the Aeneid,
go.
and another thing that he does is he describes how rumors um, of Aeneas and Queen Dido's is it Dido or Dido? I think it's Dido.
Dido, I think, yeah, Dido.
Queen Dido's engagement is spread by 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 talking about rumor as an actual being that walks through the land, and
Mhm,
then Ovid parodies this by having four different uh, giant representations of some idea, like rumor, like that kind of
mhm,
thing, walk
mhm,
throughout the land in a more exaggerated way, and has like extremely exaggerated battles where the seriousness of it is like really brought over the top to the point where it seems kind of pompous.
mhm. Well,
And
the hair
so
is certain. Yeah, sorry, go on.
this I think this is more just like the original failing rather than an exaggeration.
Well, the hair is pretty exaggerated.
Oh,
If
it's just
I'll
normal
be
hair.
honest, that is
You would
not
see these
normal hair.
on this how different do these guys look from the members of Led Zeppelin? Not at all.
You can't. Okay, this is some Black Sabbath bias here. They literally they're all the shaggiest character. I said before they're the Muppet Band, but they're all just the like copies of the shaggiest character from the Muppet Band. Like it's absolutely unreal how massive their hair is, and and
That that was
and
literally just the style at the time. This isn't an exaggeration of the style. Maybe they're not
okay.
doing it very well, but that was
Well,
just in vogue.
combined the bassist also whose name is Geezer Butler. I want to point out, Geezer has he's also wearing. I think you can tell this is in this is not a one-shot take, obviously, because there's he changes outfits, I think actually. But one of his outfits is like the 60s era, like Star Trek style, very tight, uh, long sleeve shirt. So he actually looks like a complete bobblehead because of how small that makes his torso look compared to his massive noggin. But I guess back to the point of exaggeration, I think you could still call it a very subtle parody, but I think another way of putting it is that um, it might be one thing to appreciate the accuracy of a recreation, um, like in certain aspects, but I don't think I don't think the accuracy of a recreation puts it above just a actual like original bit of material from that era. Like,
No.
yeah, it's only a lack of accuracy that can detract, basically, and
Well, I
just
think
being accurate is.
it's like I said, if getting an accurate recreation is like the first step, but then you need to exaggerate some part of it.
Mm, yes, and I would say that things like the people in the like that are slightly off the set who get captured in this video, um, captured by the camera, not like held captive. They are not shot in a particularly menacing way. They are definitely shot in a oh we just didn't move these people out of the way type situation.
Yeah.
So I think that is the nail in the coffin for my artistic Borges-esque interpretation of the video. Oh well.
Oh well, I'll give this a 2.
I will give this a 3, just because they do kind of look goofy, and I have an affinity for it. It almost like takes on a different comedic quality, where like they look very like stuck in. I mean, it's 1970, but it's basically the 60s still, and yet they just are going ham on such an epic song. So I think that
But is
contrast
that actually
that
adding to the song?
yeah, the contrast is kind of funny. Like they do kind of look like flower power dudes, and then they just bang out an absolute epic, one of the best metal songs of all time.
Yeah.
So I think that contrast is kind of funny. Um, so moving on to other ways to exploit the white backdrop music video, should we cover Life on Mars?
Yes, because this is actually a very good one at doing that, I think.
I would say that I would agree.
So,
Um,
all right, there's two versions of this. The
yes.
one is in brackets called official video, and the
Hmm.
other is called original ending.
Hmm.
Um, and it's in 4K,
Yes.
and
The
that one is
original was not
inferior.
4K.
The
Sorry, I said the original was not in 4K, and you said the
the original ending version in
yes,
brackets
yes,
is in 4K. The
yes,
official video in brackets is not. It is
yes.
in 480p,
Hmm.
which is a much lower resolution. Uh,
Yes.
for those who didn't know, uh,
Like how much? Let's just calculate that real quick. That's like
um,
thirty
I think each time
three
that you
thousand five hundred and twenty fewer pixels.
no, it's because this is just talking about the width. So each time you like from
Oh,
480p to
squared then.
720p, it actually doubles the number of pixels. So each one that you go up doubles the number of pixels. So
Hmm.
going from 4K to 480p, that's one, two, three, four. So that's like 1/16th of the pixels, if I'm not mistaken.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Uh, on a completely different note, why would you say that the 4K version is worse?
First, I have to extol the virtues of the official video, the lower resolution one.
Okay, yeah,
And
let's do that generally, yeah, and then we'll move on.
and those are that they have made David Bowie so textureless and so pale that he blends into the background half the time.
Yes.
And uh, and that makes him look very alien in a number of quite captivating ways because he's always dressing up in an unusual way. Like his one pupil is far more dilated than the other, and he's got blue makeup and
Quite funny
blonde
way he
hair.
dressed up there. Yeah, he's got a
Um,
goofy looking face.
well, I mean, I'm not gonna go. We can go after his teeth, which are pretty terrible. That was why I sent you the Simpsons clip, the big book of British smiles, because
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
he could really fit in that.
I mean,
Uh,
it doesn't help that they can. This is the downfall of the British complexion is that it's very easy to make them look as pale as a like sheer white backdrop, but it's very difficult to make their teeth look as white as that. So
yeah, but
it is like the besides obviously like the blue makeup and the orange hair, it is probably the most colorful part of his face is the yellow teeth.
yeah. But anyways, so he disappears into the background, and his face has like for almost all of the video, it has no texture. And I think that's very clever because they understood that they were shooting it on videotape, so they had limitations. They're just in a white
Mm,
room. They're like, how can we use these limitations to produce an artistic effect? And so they decided to shoot him in such a way that he blends into the room around him.
mhm.
And then and the only time when that effect is ruined is at 3 minutes and 14 seconds when he shows life on Mars and his forehead wrinkles a bunch. And you
Ah,
can
okay.
see those wrinkles.
That is barely perceptible, I will say. Well,
But
I don't mind that either, really, because I think I mean, yeah, seeing that he is distinct from the back, like I wasn't completely fooled. Like to be honest, he's a bit more green at times than the backdrop.
yeah, he doesn't
So
always blend in, but there are like half the time he is.
yeah, and I think they use it to pretty good effect. Again, they take advantage of that by they have a couple of fade to whites in transitions in the video. And when you do that with someone whose face is already like as pale as what you're fading to, it's just like his facial features are disappearing, which is again a very interesting effect.
Yeah. And so with that praise of the official video out of the way,
Mhm.
the original ending version that's in 4K ruins this because it actually adds texture to his face. Like he never once blends into the background. He's just a guy wearing odd makeup, and
Yeah,
and by making it by increasing the number of expenses they've put into the the making of the video, they have worsened it.
yeah, that I can. I mean, there's something to be said for also just like I think his costume and his overall look is interesting enough that a clear shot of the video is still like pretty captivating. But I think that might be like at this point like for almost for archive purposes, like it's interesting for us to go back and like actually see a clear shot of his costume because it's like it was like a revolutionary part of the glam rock scene and like
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
interesting but
That's just like that means the value of the 4K upgrade is as like production stills then,
yeah
or
pretty
like a
much
behind the scenes, not the work of art itself.
yes that's how I'd put it too. um I also think for the most part the editing is a lot more interesting than the Black Sabbath video, which does a lot of focusing on just people playing. um Obviously David Bowie's not playing in this, but a lot of the camera work isn't just like handheld zooming in on someone's hand playing a guitar, but I do like instead the he does a lot of like dramatic points at the camera when he talks about the lawman beating up the wrong guy, and the zoom in. I'm not sure if they're zooming in or dollying in, but it is coming from up high, so probably maybe it's a crane shot in or something. Although I'm not sure if they like could
I
afford a
doubt
crane
they
for
had that much money. It's probably a zoom.
this. Okay, yeah, they zoom in and it's not it's quick enough to be kind of like rapid and energetic, but it's not like a snap zoom. So again, it is like this kind of weird in between uh, that is sort of feels very at home in the video. Um, I also like there's a bit of a funny double meaning when he says the first time he says as they ask you to focus on sailors, blah blah blah. He's got his finger up in like pointing at the camera, and it's out of focus, so you get a focus double entendre there.
Ah,
But I think I think the editing could still be a bit better. It does feel like it drags at times. For example, when when he starts the second verse about like where he says it's on America's tortured brow, um, it jump cuts to as soon as he finishes with tortured brow, it cuts to like a full body shot of him, like a medium shot of him, and you wait for him to deliver the next line, and he says finally after waiting that Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow. He signals this with by raising his arm,
yeah.
and then again you wait, you wait, and just as he opens his mouth to start delivering the next line, jump cut to the next to a headshot again, and it's like they really stretched out like the most awkward shot in the entire video of like this kind of like weird full body shot of him, if you know what I mean there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so like editing like that is not. I didn't think it was very smooth. Um,
Yeah, that was mistimed. That's at
y-
about 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
yeah, and and to be honest, I found the sort of the last third to be kind of boring too. There's a lot of slow pans across his face, like extreme close-ups across his face, which again, it kind of does away with the. Uh, he also has an interesting physicality in the video. To be fair, it's so light that like his pants are like almost starting to blend in with the background, and when you have like these extreme close-ups, you don't get this interesting physicality that he's got, or like doesn't really incorporate the costume at all.
Well, yeah, I suppose it doesn't incorporate his suit, but as it dissolves across different parts of his face, and that's interesting because again, it's like it's so pale. It's like more fade to white, where he is still blending into the environment even when it's just a close up on his face.
Yeah, they just kind of go to that well quite a few times, but I don't think that's really. These are kind of minor flaws to what I think is still an interesting video. I'm gonna give it a 4.
I think I will also give it a 4.
Okay, and shall we move on to Imagine then?
Uh, I suppose so. That was a fast one.
You know
But I
what?
don't think I have anything else to say about it.
I am so recharged having woken up about half an hour ago. I am just like
Oh man,
just ready to
it is
motor through
2:30.
this.
People listening to us,
Wait. I thought it was
2:30
1:40.
p.m.
Hold on. No, wait. We've been recording for half an hour. Okay. About an hour ago then. By that point. Oh wait, an hour and a half actually. Okay. Maybe a little bit of brain fog still set in. Anyway, that being said, Imagine. Now,
Imagine.
have you visited the rateyourmusic.com page for this album?
I think I did a while ago, and there's a lot of people there's a lot of Christians on that website. I guess because there's a lot of Americans, and a lot of them are angry about it for like the same reason that Ben Shapiro is. Um,
Wait, is which reason is Ben Shapiro angry?
oh,
Is
have you
it
never
and
heard?
is it not
Ben
is it
Shapiro's
not
angry at Ben Shapiro calls "Imagine" the most immoral song ever recorded, which
yes.
I mean, because it's I mean, imagine there's no heaven.
Oh, for the same reason
Yeah,
as the Christians. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. Um I was I thought and I actually looked to see recently if those I could still find those reviews and I could not. But I will shake my stick and tell you, back in the day when I first went to that page, it was just a bunch of like commies calling this like the most hypocritical song of all time because
Oh,
he says, "Imagine there's no money," but guess what? In real life, he has money.
yeah.
That's
That's the
that's
other
why
thing
it's
to
something
point.
that he can imagine.
Yeah,
If he
well,
was if he was like the proletariat, then he wouldn't have to imagine this thing, and he wouldn't think it was such a good thing.
did they actually say
Think
that? Because
about
that
that.
is just missing the point.
No, no, that's basically it. Yeah, it's hypocritical that like someone who has money is telling other people to not have money.
Yeah,
He should
well,
he
I
should
mean,
not have money then.
I'm gonna I have a lot of notes about this one. I have the most notes about this one
Okay, I have
because
the least.
it will bring
So
up a I think a recurring discussion point. But before we get to that point, which is,
mhm.
I mean, I suppose let's put a hold on this current discussion of communists and hypocrisy and
Yes,
Christians and moral
Ben Shapiro.
indignation.
Don't forget Ben
Um,
Shapiro too.
yeah, and Jews and moral indignation. Sorry, let's not exclude anyone. I suppose Muslims could get mad too.
Mm,
Um, but I want to do a throwback to the Carpenters.
okay.
And the reason being, you said, "Oh, you're only disliking the Carpenters because it's slow and you can't make an interesting video to a slow song."
Mm,
And I say, "No, the Carpenters just made a boring video."
mhm.
Um, and this is an
And
example of
this
I
is your
think
evidence?
this is definitely a much better video than the Carpenters video. This is not a great video, but it is much better than the Carpenters video. And
Okay. I want to
and
go. Yeah.
And so this is it has and I think you need to recognize some value in slow cinema. And I'm going to
Mhm.
stress this is not a masterpiece of slow cinema, but it is decent. And let
Mm,
me explain why. So it starts with a interesting long tracking shot behind them that slowly that dissolves from one part of their walk to the next. And then they and that sets the tone for this kind of slow-paced ethereal song where there's mist and fog all around them, and it does kind of look unreal, very this because it's such a secluded strange place. Light flitters through the trees
mhm.
before they get to their giant mansion. It unfortunately cuts up to a kind of a pompous "This is not here" sign. I don't like that part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then it cuts back to them, and they just teleport into the house, really,
They do.
right?
They don't need to knock. They are welcome. So they recognize. Well, John Lennon is dressed up as a wizard, so obviously he just teleports them in.
Yeah, and then the next I mean, there's a lot of close up on his face singing, but then a big part of the video is Yoko Ono walking along and opening all the windows, and so this dark room slowly is filled with light, and it's like Uh, it is like his vision is becoming more hopeful and bright and cheery,
Mhm,
uh, and you know, light usually associated with like knowledge and positivity.
mhm.
So it's like that is being cast in. So it strongly visually reinforces uh, the ethereal tone of the song.
And I think you could also say that you could look backwards and say that before they go in and before the windows are open, it looks like a typical sort of like aristocratic manner, right? It's behind all the trees, all the fog, and they're wearing black. It looks very like old world-ish, right? And then when they go inside and open the windows, it looks like a very nouveau interior, right? It's not
Yeah,
like carpeted with like a big fireplace and like a deer mounted over it. So again, it's like the kind of reinforces that transition from old world to like new potential world.
yeah. And so I think that's all a lot of I think that those are all strengths, and the only and this is where the communist complaint comes back in,
Yeah.
and the um and prompts a question, which is, should we treat art as being self-contained? Um,
Hmm.
because if it is self-contained, then this mansion isn't a real mansion. It's like and just an ethereal artistic creation for the point of the video.
Yeah.
But if it's not self-contained, then you bring in the knowledge of John Lennon being a very rich dude, uh,
Mhm.
and you can say the what the communists say, which is, oh, the only reason he is able to, and the symbol just becomes like the house becomes a symbol of his detachment from the rest of the world, and the only reason
Yeah.
he's able to imagine a utopian society is because as someone with a massive pocketbook, he those concerns are not his to begin with.
Yes, exactly. And I want to say that like the house does play a like as you described basically it is like the strongest symbol and like the biggest conveyor of meaning in the entire video. So like if it's basically the protagonist in this video. So if you don't if you don't think that it's like completely self-contained and you see this as John Lennon's actual house, then it's going to be very detrimental.
Yeah, and so I'm someone who I mean this like obviously autonomy is a big debate in aesthetics, and I'm not going
Mhm.
to pretend that I'm number one aesthetics expert in the world,
Mhm.
but I'm certainly going to err on the side of autonomy. Um,
Hmm.
and right now, I realize you might say that's difficult to do with a song that's, I mean, it is a message song giving John
Uh-huh.
Lennon's philosophy about the world.
Yeah.
Um, and so and so uh being having autonomy does then remove like make the message meaningless. And I would say that is not a bad thing. That is a good thing, which is because I don't think the song is good because it has a message. And in
Ooh.
fact, I think John Lennon's message is kind of flaccid.
Well,
Um,
ooh, okay.
and
Throw back to Shatner
yeah,
times.
throwback.
Okay.
Uh,
Man, we're gonna if there's a single Shatner music video out there, we are going to hunt that down. It'll be the
uh,
crown jewel of this podcast. But I'm not entirely sure. I don't think the meaning is completely removed if you like I don't know what verb I should use. Automatize it, or you
Automize,
know,
maybe.
automize it. Yeah, exactly. Like it is still just a perspective, just because it's not the perspective of a millionaire or you know. But I see sort of what you mean.
Um, but yeah, I'm not impressed by John Lennon's message. It does epitomize slave morality, really. Um,
Well, um,
but just
yeah, I
this
guess
huge appeal to meekness.
it
Um,
is, but it is a universal appeal to meekness. It wants everyone to be meek, and
yeah,
I don't think
that's
slave
that's what's so makes it such a example of slave morality.
but slave morality can't doesn't really make sense without the master, right? Like, because slave
Yeah,
morality is just an excuse to to say
but
why you're so weak, right?
yeah, and that's Nietzsche's worry is it will be so all encompassing that that everyone will just fall into it. He describes like a world where everyone just is completely pacified. He
Oh, okay, I
describes them
didn't
as
know that.
standing around and blinking. He really
Interesting.
emphasized they're just standing there and blinking.
They're blanking. He didn't
Yeah,
want to. Are they breathing?
I believe they
Are
are.
they just blinking? At least
Um,
they do not have dry eyeballs. That's crucial. Well, I don't know. Maybe they're still making music. Whatever.
but
Besides Nietzsche tangent,
yeah, but so
and
that without getting into philosophical beef, because again, if I'm gonna say that this is good regardless of the message, I can't use the message against it.
yeah.
Um,
So
I think the song is good because of its ethereal sound, um, and and John Lennon's kind of dreamy pronunciation and cadence, which in a lot of ways is similar to the Beatles' earlier druggy songs. but it's a piano ballad.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, just going back to like, can you? How easy is it to separate, or like, should we view art as self-contained? I think part of how I'm going to evaluate this is how like most people will see it, and like how because I don't think like we can solve the self-containment debate of aesthetics. So for me, it's just a matter of like if most people are going to be prone to see this as self-contained and not hypocritical, then it's a good video. But if it primes people in one way or another to see it as in the context of John Lennon's millionaire lifestyle, then it's a bad video. And I'm going to probably have to say that it definitely does prime people to see this in the context of John Lennon because the witch who broke up the Beatles is in this video. And
That
so
dastardly Yoko Ono with
so
her shrieking and howling.
yeah, exactly. And so I'm sure her and her plastic Ono band definitely contributed a lot to this song. But that aside, um, it is another sort of. I mean, I guess you could use another like. It's important that there's another person in the video, maybe to open the windows while he's playing. Um, but it could again that could be anyone for the purposes of the meaning of the song.
Yeah,
Um, and the fact that it is a well-known public figure. Like if you just got like Barack Obama to do that, right? It would be like it would be difficult to see this as not a context of, well, first of all, it'd be very strange because I'm not
there'd
sure
be
if
a
they
lot of
will
homoeroticism in this video. There's Barack Obama.
I yeah. I mean also some pedophilia charges perhaps given the age disparities. But that aside, yeah, when it's a well-known public figure, it's going to taint people's perception. So it's someone who is within his family, and so when you see that, you naturally jump to the conclusion that this is their house, um, even if you didn't know that going in. And you know with that in mind, it makes him look more hypocritical, especially like when like the hopeful the hopefulness is represented as bringing light into their massive house, like revealing how
Yeah.
gorgeous and beautiful it is like that again sort of backfires when you
Yes,
understand the
completely.
context. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
so
that's what I'm saying. If you take this with context and you treat the context as important, it becomes terrible. But
yeah.
if you take it without context, it's good.
Okay. Well, I
Or you
guess
take it not without context, but you take it as with autonomy.
okay, yeah. So I'm not sure how much more I can say on it, but like Yoko's inclusion definitely leads me to think about this in the context of John's actual life. And for that reason, I think I'm going to give this a 2 because it is still like visually interesting to look at. And I'm not even that irked by the hypocrisy anyway, so
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give this a 3, but my question is,
all right, hold
uh,
on. Okay, yeah.
do
Go
you
ahead.
do you have to view like John and Yoko as playing themselves? Because I mean, when there are actors in movies, the actors you don't think of them as the actual actors. You think of them as the characters that they're playing.
Yeah,
And
but like
and
rarely
likewise,
yeah.
it's not like he says at any point, "I am John Lennon and this is my wife Yoko Ono and we are
Yeah.
real British citizens." I don't know if
But
Yoko Ono was a British citizen. I think she
real
was.
British real British citizens, eh? Okay, now who's the Morrissey in the group? Talking about real British citizens.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I do not know if Yoko Ono was a British citizen.
Okay,
I
yeah, if
imagine she was, except that Japan doesn't let you hold dual citizenship. So maybe she didn't want
yeah,
to lose her Japanese citizenship. I don't know.
yeah, maybe not. But wait, before the real Brits, what were we talking about?
I was saying, do they need to Do you need to look at them as
Oh,
themselves or as like actors playing roles?
I mean, the again, it becomes more difficult when so they kiss at the end, right? So they are in, if you just view this out of context, by itself, self-contained, you get the impression, and they're in the same house, blah, 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 you get the impression that they're like, or at least a romantic couple, right?
Yeah.
And the people who've been, let's say, cast to play these roles just happen to be in real life a famous romantic couple.
Yeah,
That
that
that's
happens
that's what
sometimes.
makes, if it happens sometimes, I guess, but again, for like a 3-minute video with no dialogue that suggests that they're anyone else other than themselves, it's very difficult to see it, another way that they're playing characters or something. Um,
Well, there's no dialogue that suggests they're anyone other than themselves, but there's also no dialogue that suggests they are themselves.
yeah, well, except the fact that they are a well-known uh
There's
like
no, this is again, this
husband
is
and wife.
the real life coming into it.
But what I'm saying is there's evidence that sort of suggests that they are playing themselves, because in real life they're married, and in this they seem to be romantically engaged. So there's like that evidence in favor, and there's no dialogue or anything that would suggest that there's to create any evidence against them just playing themselves. That's 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 really all I'm saying, is there's no evidence that
Yeah.
suggests that they're anyone but themselves. But what I'm more interested in is, why are you giving this a 3, you fence sitter? You just said it's good if you see it one way and bad if you see it another way, and then you're
Yeah,
like, okay, it's average.
and then I said that I see it the good way.
And 3, okay, three is the good for you, I guess.
Yeah, 3 is when it starts being good. This isn't
Okay.
this video isn't certainly isn't as good as the David Bowie video, even
Yeah.
if you take it as being as having autonomy.
Okay.
How do you
Fair
conjugate
enough.
autonomy?
Um,
Anyway, actually, that's just going to be a tangent. YouTube
it
commenters,
definitely it
correct me
def-
for my ignorance of the language.
definitely
Uh,
ends in MOUS. Wait, like if you see it as autonomous, is that
yeah,
just
yeah,
okay?
autonomous
Okay.
or yeah,
Yes, a free agent, free-willed agent. Um, Sweet. So I think that sums up our discussion of these videos today. I should also note, we forgot to talk about it because we just zoomed right by it, but we've slightly broken our rules, uh, because Life on Mars, which we didn't even talk about the meaning of that song, which is another very cool. I guess it doesn't really synergize if you want to just go back to that. Like, the song is about like life imitating art and that sort of thing. I guess the video has little to do with that, but it was actually released for Hunky Dory in 1971, the song, but it was reissued as a single during the height of Ziggy Stardust, which is why
oh,
he's actually dressed up like that. So it was released 2 years later, the video that is. And maybe we'll go back, and there are like 6 versions of Space Oddity. Um, like one as Ziggy's, like basically like one as every character that David Bowie has played. So
right.
we might go through this Space Oddity journey or something like that. But next week we're doing something a little different. Do you want to say what that is?
Yes. Next week we are r- returning to perhaps the internet again would be a way of putting it. We're not talking about YouTube celebrities. We are just talking about uh, popular uh, comedy songs, parody songs that
Say
are
it, say
on
it. They're
YouTube.
meme
Are
songs.
they're meme songs? Yeah, are meme songs with videos. Our three titles are going to be "Doing Your Mom" by Fatty Spins, "Hey Hey 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 Ya" by Slack Circus, and "Rappin' for Jesus" by Brian Spinney.
By Brian. Jeez, I didn't know he had a street name too. Not just
That's
like
that's the
Pastor this
YouTube
or that.
channel name. The
Okay.
Yeah, the name of the artists, the I mean, not to spoil too much. The name of the artists are Pastor and Mrs. Jim Colerick.
Okay. That doesn't
Uh,
spoil that much, I don't think.
no, no, I was gonna say other things, but
Okay.
that'll be saved
No,
for
that's
the next episode, our discussion of who the true artists are in that video.
is it Jesus or is it the pastors? Uh, yeah, that's the video that's gonna have our YouTube channel taken down, but that's fine. Um, it's it's been a nice run, and
Yeah.
with that, see you next
Uh,
week.
Thank you for listening.